Welcome back to the channel, good friends. Brian from Apex Detail. It's been a highly requested video that I covered the subject of touch-up, whether it's filling in scratches or rock chips. The best advice I can give you is to keep it simple. You can really go down the rabbit hole with this and start losing money. There are a lot of ways to go about filling in rock chips and deep gouges from scratches. The first way, after a wash and a decon, is to get a panel prep. This here happens to be solvent-based, and I've reached for those for this situation. I rarely go for a solvent-based prep, but I need something to get in the base or the valley of the chip or the gouge to work out dirt, wax buildup. A lot of people like to go through the car washes that have the hot wax treatment, any old sealants or coatings. You really want to work those out of there. Start with the panel prep, a solvent panel prep. And then right here at the end of a lot of the touch-up sticks is a ceramic tip that you can use to get in there as well and scrape out some of the old waxes, sealants or dirt, or even sometimes if it's down to bare metal, it starts to rust, and you can use these tips to scrape that out of there. Okay, so here's where you can really start going overboard. And this is if this is your own vehicle or it's in the budget and a package where I actually get paid to do it and spend this time. And that's to use some filler. And you could just put a little dot next to the gouge or the paint chip or anything that's really deep. And you know, touch-up paint, it would take layer and layer to fill that in. And you can use a scraper or a putty knife or any flat piece of plastic and pull it into the gouge or the chip, and that will fill. You just need to you have to have patience when you're doing this, and you have to give it time to cure, give it time to harden up, or if you start to work on it, wet sanding, polishing, or whatever you're going to do to it, it could pull it right back out, and you have to start at square one. So I'm going to give that quite a few hours to cure, and when it does harden up, it really turns this lighter color. So that's where we can really turn to wet sanding. And what I'll do is I'll grab 3000 grit, and that's normally more than enough for the filler here to level it out and shave off the hump or the rough areas or the top of this fill-in job. It'll make it nice and smooth. Then you can follow up with your touch-up. And then this is what it should look like after this step. The gouge or the deep scratch or the paint chip is filled in. It's time to get to the touch-up. Now, I do not have exact touch-up paint here. Maybe that's a good thing because we'll be able to see the repair a little bit easily. But normally you have the ceramic tip, you have the color end, and on the other end you have clear coat. Now you can fill in the rock chip or the gouge with paint and then top it with clear. I like to mix clear in with it and swirl it up a little bit, mix everything in together, and put it all in as one. Okay, that mix is ready to go. I'm going to grab my fine line pen. This is just one of many, many tools. I'll show you some more towards the end of the video, other options, but this one here is my favorite. And you just kind of, I don't know, similar to a tattoo or an ink artist, you dab it in. There is no paintbrush strokes with this. Just blot it in and fill in the crevice. Now at this point, it's sitting on top of the filler and it's raised above the surface of the clear. And that's what we want. We want it to give this plenty of time to cure and harden up. And sometimes that's 12, 24, 48 hours, depending on the touch up you're using. And that's where you can really go down the rabbit hole. I'm going to use a heat gun to help me get started with the hardening and the cure time. But unless you're getting paid all this time to tie up a bay or to keep working on this over and over again, and again, if you start working on it too soon, and these are the fine line pens, I wanted to give you a close up. These are on Amazon. You can easily get these. But unless you have a lot of time and a lot of budget to put into these, it's not worth it. So what I like to do in the meantime while it's curing is grab a number 2 pencil, get a hole puncher, and punch out a couple of the 2500 sheets. I'll take this little dot of 2500 grit and I'll put some super glue on and I'll glue it onto the eraser end of the number 2 pencil. Why am I doing this? Well, you'll see in a couple minutes here. This is going to turn into a tool to help me level out the filler and also the touch-up paint that we have raised above the surface of the clear coat. So I'll get a couple of these together. And while we're still waiting for things to dry and harden up, I might as well grab the whiteboard and kind of give you a diagram of what we're doing. We're using the filler to fill it up to here, still have a little bit of a valley, gives us enough room to fill in with touch-up paint. That will leave us a bit of a hump up over top of the level of the clear, and that's what we're waiting for harden to cure and dry right now. And what we want to then do is break out the sandpaper, and I'll show you another little trick before we start sanding to level this out, make it perfectly flat. Now you're always going to see where you do the touch-up work. I don't care what anybody says, you can't blend it in perfectly. You're always going to see the work's done, but you really have to get close. So here is another trick. Grab a razor blade and put some masking tape on the corners so they don't dig in, and it slightly elevates the blade. Hold it upright, pull it over the hump or the raised touch-up paint, and ever so gently pull, and this is what it'll do. It'll level things out and it'll scrape off the peak of the hump to level things off down to the level of the clear coat, just slightly above, and that gets us ready for the next step. All right, that satisfies me, so we're going to go on and grab these number 2 pencils with the 2500 grit, go right over top of the area and twist it, turn it. You can drag it back and forth if you want to and just do regular sand motions, but this will concentrate the sanding to only the top or the peak of that hump and not so much the surrounding clear, where you can really get into trouble if you take it down too deep. You can see we're picking up just the peak of that touch-up that we did. Now from there, I'm going to step down or up to 3000 grit from 2500, and that is attached to a palm sanding block. There you can see we're picking up some of that touch-up paint. We're still leveling, bringing it down even perfectly, as we can anyway, to the clear coat. And with that step done, I can bring you in closer. And indeed, it was a good idea not to use the perfect match. A darker color helps us see where that is. And using this light, you can see we're really filling it in. Now, you could repeat these steps. And again, that's where you go down the rabbit hole and start to spend way too much time doing this stuff. Hey, maybe it's in the budget, or maybe it's your car and you have the time to do it. But next, we're going to just get a finishing polish and a pad, and we'll polish out the sand marks, and I can show you what it looks like. Okay, so if this would be a perfect match touch up, and all you have to do is take your car to your local dealership and show them the color code, and normally in the parts department they'll have a perfect match, and then this would really be hard to see at this point if it was the perfect match because it would be level and there'd be a little bit of a mark. You would see if you're at the perfect angle and if you're really looking for it. But yeah, that's kind of what you would be looking for if you spend a lot of time on these deep gouges and chips. So let's move to some of the other chips and gouges, and I'll show you some of the other stuff. These are sort of little swabs that you can get on Amazon as well. Touch-up swabs. They worked great. This is what I recommend for you guys to do, to just touch up and move on. So pick it up onto the end of the swab, and again, no brush strokes, just dab it in, let it drop into the little valley of the rock chip. This may take, because you're just using touch-up, quite a few drops. You might have to wait, let it dry, and then you'll see it'll fill in. There'll still be a valley that you need to kind of fill in, and you may need more touch-up. Another option are these Royal paintbrushes. These are great. They come to a point and they're protected, so it keeps them in a perfect point until you take that cap off and start to use them. They're nice and stiff. They stay pointed. You can really get exact when it comes to touch-up paint with these as well. Again, a local craft store and even on Amazon. And then we can go back and you can really get cute again. And I've shown you filling in with the hypodermic needles, and these are bottles with a needle type tip to them that you can draw the paint up into it and then lay it down into the valley of a deep long scratch, like maybe a key mark or a key scratch. Or maybe brushing up against a branch or something that really takes a long gouge out of the paint on a panel, and this will help fill it in. I just normally draw in enough paint that I know the needle's full. With that, I can fill in a rather long scratch. Now this is kind of hard to hold the camera, focus, and fill it in perfectly just with one hand, so you guys would do much better concentrating on this. But that's just an example of many ways to attack and go after rock chips and deep gouges from scratches. My best advice, keep it simple. I hope that helps. If you have any questions, don't hesitate. Brian from Apex Detail. I'll catch you in the next video.